to today's Remembrance Day ceremony at Old City Hall, hosted by the City of Toronto. My name is Aretha Phillip, and I'm the city's Chief of Protocol. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of these lands. It is important that we reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and in learning about the rich history of this land to better understand our role as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers in this place we each call home. The City of Toronto acknowledges the land we are meeting on as the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We also acknowledge the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. The City of Toronto acknowledges all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants either in this generation or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to our ancestors of African origin and descent. In keeping with this tribute, during this Remembrance Week, the city commemorated the contribution of No. 2 Construction Battalion, Canada's only all-Black battalion. Despite facing discrimination, these brave men took up the call to serve during the First World War more than 100 years ago, and we are joined today by their descendants. Our commemoration is a point of reflection on the past, providing context for the present challenges faced by Black communities and a hopeful future for all people of African descent. First Nations have fought alongside settlers since the War of 1812 and continue to serve in the Canadian Forces, defending our land and people. Joining us today is Kevin Myron from Toronto Fire Council Fire, who carries their Eagle Staff. On the Eagle Staff, each feather represents an act of honor performed by the bearer in times of war, with a spear at the end. When treaties were made between First Nations and settlers, the ends of the staff were bent into a circle, symbolizing peace amongst us. Eagle staffs are still carried today with the eagle head at the top, bent to represent peace. The vigil sentries today are mounted by the 48th Highlanders of Canada, a primary reserve regiment of the Canadian Forces. The sentries are wearing period uniforms, including the First and Second World Wars and modern dress. They are led by Warrant Officer Duff, who wears historic dress from 1891. Should you wish to follow today's program on your own device, you can find it online at toronto.ca/lest we forget. Please rise as you are able and join in the singing of our national anthem, which will be followed by the last oath, the silence, the lament, and the rouse. Please remain standing until after the reading of the act of remembrance and the commitment to remember.
We that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. That they wind down the sun, and in the morning we will remember them.
Promesse de se souvenir. Ils étaient jeunes comme nous. Ils ont servi, donnant généreusement de même. Nous leur remettons, en dépit du temps qui passe, d'emporter le flambeau et de ne jamais oublier. Nous nous souviendrons d'eux. Nous nous souviendrons d'eux. Now in English. They were young as we are young. They served, given freely of themselves. To them we pledge, amid the winds of time, to carry their torch and never forget. We will remember them. We will remember them.
Please be seated. I wish to recognize the broadcasts of Canadian Army aircraft which were used in training Canadian and Commonwealth airmen during the Second World War. 2024 marks the centennial of the Royal Canadian Air Force. I would also like to thank John Dufour for reading the Act of Remembrance and Stephen Mensa, Executive Director, Toronto Youth Cabinet, for reading the Commitment to Remember. I now wish to call upon Her Worship Olivia Chow, Mayor of Toronto, to address the gathering.
Good morning, honored guests, Toronto Chair of School Board, Trustee Ethan Shan, Trustee Dee Williams. I'm humbled to join you on Remembrance Day as we gather in solemn unity at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Humbled to stand in this moment when we honor the courage and sacrifice of those who place service above self to defend peace and the freedoms we hold dear. For over a century, the people of Toronto have come together at Old City Hall to pay tribute to the brave men and women who served and those who gave their lives in service to Canada. Today, we honor not just their memory, but their families, loved ones, and communities that carried their legacy forward. They too answer the call of service wherever it may take them. Provide support, endure separation from loved ones, and bear the burden of injury and loss. Our city is filled with echoes of those who served across generations. Woven into Canada's history and Toronto landscapes, they are a testament to the bravery, duty, and dedication of our service members. At the many cenotaphs dedicated to those who served in World War II, this year we reflected on the 80th anniversary of D-Day, when Canadian forces joined our allies in courageously storming the beaches of Normandy. We recognize the centennial of the Royal Canadian Air Force, those who served and trained in our city over the past century, many of them on Toronto Island. We also honor the number 2 Construction Battalion, Canada's only all-black battalion formed during the First World War. Their story, now marked by a pursuit of a peaceful and just future for all. Lest we forget.
Thank you to the Ellesmere Eisler Singers, accompanied by the 7th Toronto Regiment, Royal Canadian Artillery Band. This musical version of the famous poem In Flanders Fields, written by John McCrae in 1915, was arranged by Lydia Adams with music by the Central Band of the Canadian Armed Forces. Its depiction of poppies growing between the graves of the fallen soldiers led to the tradition of wearing red poppies in remembrance. We will now present the wreaths. The first wreath today will be led by Her Worship, Mayor Olivia Chow, on behalf of the City of Toronto. Royal Canadian Legion, John Dufort, District